tankers, my face again. I've been slowly grinding up the American Yo line in World of Tanks. I've just reached the Tier 9 M6Y. These tanks are classed as heavies in the game. They're really MBT designs. They were submitted by a company called HL Yo. This company is still going around today. I think they're called Yo Services. They provide staffing for the engineering industries. They provided designs to the US government or American Army for these MBT designs. Whether it was to replace the pattern, I don't know. But they're in the game from Tier 7, the M2Y, to the Tier 10 MVY. I'm going to show you some of my gameplay in the M6Y. We'll also take a look at the stats of the tank. We'll also talk about the buffs that are going to be coming into the game. By the time I've posted this on the channel, those buffs will be in the game. I was playing this pre-buff, so it was a bit of a struggle. Tier 9 is very tough. Anyway, let's quickly go into the game.
In World of Tanks, I would class the Yos as heaviums. They have a mix of medium and heavy tank characteristics, a hybrid. They have better mobility for a heavy, like a slow medium, but while they have armour above the average medium tank, they are poorly armoured for a heavy tank. This makes the playstyle a little different from the other heavy lines that you'll be used to, and it is quite challenging. And that is what I want to feature today, playing the M6Y at Tier 9. Tier 9 is a struggle as an average player. I wanted to show you what you can do and how you can contribute when you're not the best at the game. The battles were recorded before the buff, and I'll talk more about the buffs in a moment. That will be in the game by the time this recording is posted on the channel. I played a session to record replays for this video. Here is my session. I played 8 games in total, 7 in the M6Y and 1 battle in the T-34-3 premium tank to earn some credits. I won 5 out of the 7 battles in the Yo tank, which is very good for me. Awful battle in the T-34-3 because it was on mines, although I did do a lot of spotting by proxy spotting targets on the hill. Now, looking what I did specifically in the M6Y, it doesn't look that great. Average damage at 1087 per battle, hardly unicum, but I am looking for some consistency, not always the outstanding battle. And I can tell you this has been a much better level of consistency than most of my previous sessions in this tank. Plus my average assistance damage is nearly at 400, so combined I'm at just under 1500 combined damage per battle. You can also see my average damage blocked, a measly 60 per battle. That's an indication that this tank has weak armour. It feels like most Tier 9 and 10 tanks will rip straight through the armour without even firing gold. I'm pretty happy with my performance for this session as a bang average player in a difficult tank to play, as it is not the strongest for its tier. I felt that I contributed in every battle. For some of you who are average or bad players in the game, this is what you should be aiming for. Forget the CCs and unicums. They've been playing the game for years and will have press accounts. They'll have all the top bond equipment, consumables and 6 perk crews. In my gameplay today, I will show you what it's really like to play at Tier 9 in World of Tanks as a normal player. Let's take a look at the stats of this tank. Before I start, the M6Y and the MVY at Tier 10 both have a mixed reputation in the game. Some players think they are good, others think they are bad. I think the M6Y is a well balanced tank. It has some strengths and it has some weaknesses, making it an interesting and somewhat challenging tank to play. The M6Y and MVY are about to receive buffs by Wargaming. It looks like the top gun on the MVY will have an improved -12 degrees of gun depression. This line of tanks are ridgeline or hull down tanks. That kind of gun depression is going to make the MVY formidable, especially with the high alpha on the top gun. I think most players will rate it as a strong tank after this buff. Now back to the M6Y, that will also receive buffs in the 1.27.1 update. I played this before the buffs, but there'll be improvements to dispersion, aim time and reload times on the guns. Turret traverse will also be improved for better close combat. Penetration values will be higher, so you may not need the gold ammo so much and will more reliably pen enemy tanks. Gold ammo penetration will also improve, so it may hit and penetrate more and not cost you so much due to better credit earnings. Reverse speed will also be slightly quicker, which will make it a little easier to pop out of cover, fire and move back into cover as the enemy return fires. You can see these 2 cupolas on the top of the tank here. They are big weaknesses of the M6Y, making it difficult for the ridgeline playstyle. These will be buffed with more armour. Let's look at the stats. This is before the buff. Remember, in the gameplay that I'll show you later, I was playing the tank pre-buff. I play with the smaller caliber gun, the 105mm, for better DPM and penetration, but you get lower alpha damage per shot. I'm hoping the top tier gun will be better after the buff, the 120mm, and I may switch to that. I would prefer the higher alpha per shot and sacrifice a bit of DPM. As I tend to get hit a lot, I would like to trade with bigger alpha damage. 320 alpha is not great at this tier, and this tank is not the best for trading shots with the enemy with this smaller caliber gun. It will work best if you can fire at enemies distracted by your teammates. That way you can make the DPM work. I have the damage per minute at 2,742 after crew perks and equipment. Without equipment and perks it was around 2,300. In the session I played, I didn't really get the opportunity to fire at distracted enemies, which is probably why I didn't have an outstanding battle. Felt there were too many times when I traded shots and enemy fire was focused on me. The gun depression is good but not amazing for the style of play favoured by this tank. The tank works best firing over ridgelines and hills. You poke the gun over the ridge. Sometimes it gets a bit awkward because I don't quite have enough gun depression and I can end up going too far over the hill, exposing the hull. You'll see the awkwardness in one of my battles. It would be better to have -11 or -12 gun depression, which the tier 10 MVY will receive with the upcoming buff. I have the dispersion down a bit with crew perks and equipment, down from 0.35 to 0.33. The gun handling is okay, but I do feel like shots hit the ground in front of the target a bit too often for my liking. Could be just me with the tinfoil hat on, but that's what it feels like. A bit frustrating. However, it will be interesting to see how it performs after the buff to the dispersion. I may need to change the equipment setup on this tank. I currently have vert stabs on it. It may be tempting to replace it with the turbocharger for extra speed. On to survivability. The frontal turret armour is strong at 330, unlike the rest of the tank, but remember that there are two big cupolas that the enemy can slap, so when you're poking over ridgelines to take a shot, you are also exposing the cupolas. You can lift your turret and gun to try to protect the cupolas, although I've not perfected this technique. You can check out one of Quickie Baby's or Skill4All to Use videos with the tier 10 MVY to show how this technique is done properly. I think Des Games also posted a recent video with the MVY with the recent buffs on test server and demonstrated this technique. Even when using this technique, it will still be difficult to protect the two cupolas on the M6Y, whereas the MVY only has one cupola. You also need to keep the turret facing forward to the enemy. The sides of the turret are a lot weaker. Glancing to the sides exposes the weaker areas, and the enemy can easily penetrate the turret. You really have to play the M6Y as a supporting tank, and you'll see this in my cautious playstyle in the battles I'm about to show you. City fighting is also not this tank's strong point, and again play it cautiously and be the support tank. Do not brawl with this tank. This must be avoided unless you really have to. You can also go into the medium lines on some of the maps. This is an option, but your speed will not be great compared to a lot of the medium tanks in the game, so you could be vulnerable to flanking. Mobility is at 40 km per hour, not bad for a heavy, but would be considered a very slow medium tank. Turbocharger can get the speed up to 45 km per hour. The turret traverse is not great for close combat play, another reason to avoid brawling, although this is going to receive a buff too. The reverse speed will also receive a tiny buff which might help the tank in cities where peekaboo fighting is required. Concealment is non-existent, so don't rely on bush mechanics. Don't be tempted to sit and camp at the back of the map behind a bush just because you don't have a strong tank. In fact, this tank can work well by spotting the enemy, so you'll do well for your team if you push out a bit from the spawn. View range is 390, although I have increased mine through crew perks. Even 390 view range is pretty good for a heavy. I'm able to pick up extra assistance damage through spotting, nice if you're trying to 3-mark the tank. That's enough of the stats. I'm now going to show you 3 battles with the M6Y. As I said earlier, they are not great. I've had better performances with 3k combined damage in a battle, but it demonstrates how tough it is to play at tier 9, especially with an inferior tank. Okay, first battle, Fjords. I'm not going to go where the usual brawling point is for heavies. That's down south. If you just go past the port area of Fjords, there's a brawling point there. I'm not going there. I think the best options for this tank either go down the centre which can be risky. You probably want your light tanks to go out ahead and see where the enemy is, or you go down the other flank where I can use the gun depression, try and work the ridge line, go hull down. In this battle I'm going to demonstrate that the gun handling's not too bad. You can fire at a bit of distance. If I go where the 60 TP and the AMX 5120 is going down the south, it's very difficult for me to do anything. I can't go toe to toe with the enemy. It's quite difficult to play as a support tank as well. You're not really going to get many opportunities to shoot because your own teammates are going to be in the way. It's quite a narrow choke point, so I can't really do a lot there. So I'm going on the other flank. Luckily I've got some teammates with me. That's not always the case when you go down this flank. There are often times where you don't get any teammates going down this flank and can leave it completely exposed. So I'm just chugging along, it's taking my time to get there. So immediately there are some enemy around. I think that's that new Clan Wars tank, the ST62 version 2. So that's quite a dangerous opponent. So I have to be wary, so I'm staying behind this ridge. I'm not going to push any further because I could get spotted and I could get hit. There's probably a few tanks. You can see that STB1 hovering around. He could take shots at me. I could get sniped. So at this point I'm going to be patient. You can see this is the awkwardness I was talking about. You see, I can't really poke over. The gun depression's not quite good enough for me to just be able to poke over comfortably. I'm having to get further down the hill here. As we can see, there's a tortoise. I'm just going to keep my aim around this point. I'm hoping other enemies are going to get spotted. Maybe that STB1 will be around there, although I think it's just come around a bit closer towards us now. We know there's a tortoise around. So it's just about sitting here waiting patiently, see if the enemy might push as well. I don't want to get sniped myself, so I'm just exposing the turret and trying to take some shots here. So there's the tortoise, but unfortunately I can't get a hit from here. I don't want to go further up that hill where my teammates are because my gun depression just isn't quite good enough. At this point I can make it work. If I go where that T62A is, who's quite annoying because he keeps fidgeting everywhere, I don't think I can make the gun depression work so well. So I'm just going to be patient. And then we can see a tree knocked down. I'll take a blind shot there. It didn't hit. But we know that there's someone around there. It's probably the tortoise. Take another one. I don't know what the T62A is doing at this point. It's just annoying. He's going to get sniped from there. And here we go, first opportunity. Go shell. I don't know what happened with that shell there. Probably hit the ground, as I keep saying. As I said earlier, some of these shots, they do tend to hit the ground before the target quite often with this tank. The T62A is in such a bad, vulnerable position there. I don't know what he was doing. He just annoyed me throughout. He does something else later as well. I have to fire a shell at him because he's annoying me that much. I get a bit salty. So I'm still waiting for enemies to be lit up. And no show at the moment. We're 6-4 up at this point, so the rest of my team are doing a good job carrying me. I'm waiting for some of those tanks to come around, but they don't. Now look at this T62A, what is he doing? He's annoying all his team. I then get a bit salty and fire a shot up his backside. I'm getting really annoyed with that T62A. He's a fidgeter. You do get them in the game. You get these players that just fidget and move all over the place. Really annoying. Now I'm getting a bit more bold now. I'm just pushing forward because it looks like we're going to win this quite quickly. So this is where I show how you've got to farm your damage pretty quick. I'm really hoping there's tanks in front, and as I can see there's STB1. I can't quite get the hit in on him. He's dipping down. Take a shot, and there you go, hits the ground. But then I get my first opportunity on the T54 to get some damage. He just sits there. I get my first hit. He then tries to fight back. He's seen me now. I'm a bit vulnerable, but his shot hit the ground. and I managed to get my first 2 hits in. So I'm starting to feel a bit better now. I've actually contributed a bit, and I've finished with another couple of hits because I get aggressive here. I know I've got to push fast. I want to try and chase that STB-1. I don't manage to catch him, but I do run into an SPG, so I can farm a bit more damage. This shows you how you've got to be quick. The frame rate's a bit stuttery here, but it evens out again. So I'm after that STB-1, hoping to farm some more damage, but I get a bit lucky and run into the SPG. I don't change my HE, I haven't got intuition on my crew yet, I haven't got it fully researched, I don't bother. I just quickly fire 2 shots with a standard AP. Unfortunately, and this is how it can be difficult in this game to farm damage, I'm just not fast enough to get around there, get a hit on the STB-1. I also get a little bit cautious because you've got 2 strong Clan Wars tanks there, the Clan Wars reward tanks. So I don't know much about those tanks, they're probably quite strong, so I was a bit cautious there and wasn't able to get in that damage. So overall performance, yeah, not great, but I contributed. I did something, I was patient, I didn't rush in, I didn't get killed straight away, which can often happen when you play at tier 9, tier 10. If you're impatient, it can cost you, because you push out and make a mistake at this level, you can be gone back in the garage within a minute. And I'll take the victory as well, that's the important thing. City map next, Paris. This is where I would probably tend to go to the choke point for heavies. But I'm going to show you how I usually play on city maps, which is to be more the supporting heavy tank. So I'm not going to go up close and personal with the enemy heavies, I'm not going to go toe to toe with them, I'm not going to brawl, I'm going to stay back a bit. I'm not sure where this Malshan's going, so I stay behind him for a bit, which slows me down. I don't get to my position very quickly, but he might get in my way, so I'm waiting patiently here. I could go to the open area of the map, that is an option as well, but on this map I do tend to want to support my heavies a bit here and play it as a support. And I stay back and just poke around a building, you'll see in a moment, and I'm waiting for the enemy to sort of come around the corner. There's a building across over the bridge, usually there's enemy trying to flank from there. So thankfully the Malshan goes on ahead and I can just take this position here. Across that bridge there's a building, often enemy will poke around there, they're trying to flank, and a Gonkovica does poke around there in a moment, and I'm using this building right in front of me as a little bit of cover, try and make it difficult, and the Gonkovica kindly exposes his side and I get my first shot in straight away. I was really hoping for more enemies to be poking around there. There's only a Gonkovica. I do have to be a bit wary though, if he is facing me he could slap me one, so I'm a little bit cautious here. This was a bit risky, but he didn't fire, perhaps he was struggling to see the silhouette of my tank. Now I wait a little bit here, the Gonkovica disappears, so I'm waiting for him to be spotted again so I can see where he is. It's always risky poking out, he could be facing me, waiting, pre-aiming. I don't want to get slapped. And as you can see, I do not push out, I do not go right forward. I know there's a lot of enemy there, it's tempting, but I don't want to because I won't last very long. This is not a brawling tank. Now at the moment things are looking okay north, it appears, but the team north, where the open area is, quickly gets taken out, and I don't realise this, so I'm going to demonstrate in this battle where I make a huge mistake, where I don't use map awareness. There's the Gonkovica, so I can see him now, so I take a chance to poke out and know where he is, and I don't get the hit there. He bounces, and again I go back into cover. I switch to the gold now because the Gonkovica's got armour. I'm having to face him frontally, it might give me a better chance of penning. So I'm waiting patiently, I want the Gonkovica to be spotted so I can see him, and there he is again. So I slowly push out, take the shot, I'm waiting, and again he exposes the side there. Just shows you that these Polish TDs, the sides are a little weaker, to expose them you can get hits on them. Frontally it's a bit more difficult. I can't see him now, I can't get any shots on, and I'm not aware at the top of the map there, the Waffentrager Panzer IV is in big trouble. The enemy are pushing in. They've won all the north where the open area of the map is. I was not aware of this. As you can see, I'm facing where the enemy heavies are at the choke point around the bridge. And now the Mars is coming in to take some shots at me from behind. I'm still focused in front, and then I start taking shots. I realise they're all coming in, hunting me down from behind. Even the Squall's taking some shots at me. So now I just have to take this point. This is where I demonstrate this is not a brawling tank, it's just got no armour. Every shot's going to pen. Even the Squall's shots are penning me easy. And the enemy are now hunting me down. They're coming in, the Kari's coming in. I was hoping they were going to start poking around this building, but they don't. They actually go straight on. So I'll try and take a shot in a moment. And there they are. I'm tempted. I then try and do a bit of side scraping, but there's no one there because they've pushed forward. So in the end, I take a bit of a risk by popping out here quickly, taking a shot, snap firing, but obviously the handling's not quite good enough. I miss. Then the Mars here again. Look, he's getting shots in. I do get hit in back, but he gets hit on me, and then I'm finished off. And it's actually the Gonkovica that kills me in the end. I exposed the back of my tank, and he was able to get the shot. So that's the way it can go in World of Tanks. Your team capitulates, it can be difficult, and if you don't have good map awareness, which I didn't demonstrate very well there, that's when you can get taken out and taken by surprise. And it didn't go too well, but I did do over 1,000 damage again, so it wasn't the worst battle I've had at tier 9. On to Studzansky, and I've got two options of where I can go. I can go down to the south where the village is, flank from there, or I can go to the north where there's an embankment and I can flank from that position. I don't want to go to the centre, I'm not going to go into the factory, I'm not going to duke it out with the opposition heavies. This is not a brawling tank. I decided to follow in the Centurion 7-1, the ELC even 90, but at this point, it's near the end of this session, I was experiencing a shortness of breath. I felt like I needed to take a breather. I think the session was quite intense, my stress levels had gone up. So I stayed to the back in the end and let my teammates do a bit of the work and carry me, and I smoke a cigar at the back of the map. But I really needed a breather here, so I just decided to sort of poke over this little embankment here, try and use the gun depression. I was really hoping the Progetto 46 and Leopard would push forward and I could get some shots. As you will see, I keep poking over this embankment, trying to use the gun depression to get some aim on those two tanks, but they never push over that embankment. So like I say, at this point I'm letting all the boys do the work and I'm at the back of the map smoking the cigar, not getting involved. But in the end it does finish okay for me. I did farm some damage. Now I could have got involved and pushed forward, but you just never know what's going to happen at this level. I could have easily done 3,000 damage, had a great battle, but then I could have easily have done nothing and been back in the garage within a minute. So in the end I'm quite happy how this battle turned out, but it's a very slow start. Again, that Leopard and that Progetto do not push forward. This was really frustrating me at this point. I really was wanting to get involved now. I'd got my breath back. It's like, right, well, let's try and do something now. But in the end I just keep poking around this embankment. I'm sort of very wary of what's out there. We're 1-0 up already. The Leopard looks like that tank is retreating. Progetto is still hovering around. But nothing's happening for me. This is how it can go in World of Tanks. You know, first few minutes nothing can happen. And then you start getting desperate, as you'll see as the battle goes on a little bit. Because at the moment I'm sort of protecting my tank by just only poking slightly over this embankment using the gun depression. I'm still waiting around, just hoping one of the opposition tanks pushes over that embankment there. Now the Progetto 46 is retreating. I could have poked over here, but I'm demonstrating here, look, that gun depression just isn't quite good enough at times. The embankment's just a bit too steep for me to get my gun over the top there, and I couldn't get the hit in on that Progetto 46. Now I'm taking a risk, and this is because of that lack of gun depression. I've got all my tank exposed now, even the hull. I'm sort of trying to get a shot in on that Progetto 46. I can't see him. I can't see that T-30 parked at the back now. It's a bit risky because if I do fire at an enemy tank, I'll probably get spotted, and then all of my tank is exposed. I could be easily hit. But as you can see, I'm getting a bit desperate at this point. I really want that Progetto 46. But he doesn't appear. He's not spotted. So I'm still out of luck. I still haven't done anything, and we're 4-1 up already now. Now we're 6-1 up, and it's at this point I think, right, I've really got to get involved now. I've sat at the back of the map long enough. It's time to put out the cigar and let's push forward. So I'm going to go for this flanking position. This is where I originally intended to go. So I push up now. I'm after that T-30. I've forgotten about the Progetto 46 at this point. I'm after that T-30. The T-30 can slap, but it's not got great armour. So I'm going to go over this embankment here. So we have a Bourrasque that was sat at the back all the time. There's the T-30. I managed to get my first hit. I'm in the game. So I'm going to stay around here and try and flank this T-30 again. The Centurion 71's pushing up. Hopefully the T-30 will get spotted again. And there he is. Looking for a pixel. Looking for a pixel. Push up a little bit. Find pixel. Get the shot in. That's me. Second hit. So now the battle's going to be finished very quickly now. So I just managed to get some hits in on the Bourrasque. I get some tracking assistance there for the T-30 as well. And right at the end I managed to get a couple of hits on this Bourrasque, and it finishes quite nicely for me, and I get some tracking assistance too. This just shows you why I'm not a Unicum player. There are times where I will sit back and not get involved, and the reason for this time was I really needed a breather. But actually it was one of my stronger battles. I did quite a lot of damage and got the tracking assistance as well, and we won again. Overall the session wasn't amazing, but it could have gone worse for me. I'm not too upset with what I did. I do not recommend the Yo tank line for newer players. If you're a heavy tank player looking for your first tier 10 heavy, then go for one of the other tier 10 heavies first. Later, with more experience, you can try out the Yos. I probably went down this line too early, and it's been a steep learning curve. As mentioned earlier, this tech tree line will receive buffs. They have already felt nice to play, just a bit difficult. Okay, that's enough from me. I'll see you next time.